What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Hoss Talks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hoss, where you been? It's been like 3 weeks since you had a new show come out. Well, guys, I got new chompers. I got new teeth. I got a new grill. Smile for me, Dad. Let me see your grill. My what? So cheese. Man, this feels good. So a few weeks back, had surgery, had teeth taken out, man, had new implants put in. The whole nine, and just let me say, like, I've been trying to get over, like, my new speech impediment. Everyone says they can't hear it, but I hear it, like, daily. Like, I hear it right now inside the headphones. But at any rate, I'm back. I'm ready to bring you a new episode. And I've been working on this one for quite some time. Like, I've deep down inside wanted to have this guy on the show for such a long time. And it looks like it's finally going to happen. So right after this break, right here in the Hoss Talks studio, Grady Chandler will be on Hoss Talks right after this.
Introducing the Performance Electronics Wideband O2 sensor with Bluetooth. With just 3 wires, installation couldn't be easier. Quickly connect your smartphone to our simple app to monitor your engine's air-fuel ratio in real time without gauges. The PE Wideband O2 sensor is just one of many performance electronics products that can add brains and brawn to your next high-performance project. Find them all at pe-ltd.com.
Welcome back to Hoss Talks, everybody. Like I told you, this has been something that I've wanted to do for so long, and I'm so happy that it's finally taking place right here. It would have been really easy just to pick up the phone and call you and record a conversation and throw it out on Spotify or SoundCloud or MySpace or whatever. But Grady Chandler, it is so good to have you right here in the Hoss Talks studio, man. Thanks for taking the time to come up and see me, buddy.
Hey, thanks for having me. Came up here to watch the micros. Like, heck, I'm going to call him and get on the show. I was a little offended I hadn't been asked, really. I was like, man, he's not going to ask me to be on, really? Because, I mean, sitting in Florida, obviously, report being on Flow every week, you watch, and, kind of kept me up with, who's who and what's going on. And I was like, dude, he's not going to ask me? Are you serious? Like, I'm kind of pissed, but no big deal.
It was one of those things where, like I said, I want to have you on. I want to have you on the show, but like this is a video-based show. Like we put this on the Flow broadcast during intermission and all that good stuff. So to have you in studio means a lot, Grady. Of course, everyone's rooting for you. Everyone's cheering for you. There's a lot to talk about, I feel like, but we're going to hit on some certain aspects of things. We rewind, so people know Grady Chandler. I mean, the Chandler name, people just know it, right? Before the accident, you were a wheelman, dude. You were getting after it and doing things with equipment that people didn't think was going to be there, right? You always made things happen. Yeah,
and a lot of people, as far as equipment not being there, I think it's a matter of the knowledge you can bring to people to make it better. You're only as good as your knowledge in this game, and you take somebody that might not necessarily, not saying they're doing things wrong, but not necessarily right, and then you turn a car into, oh, okay, it's a sleeper, and then next thing you know, you're going pretty fast. So and it seemed like I had done that a lot, like through my whole career, really, and was getting ready to step off in some really, really good stuff, but other things obviously happened, but yeah.
So we talk. Let's go back to like I was telling you before we started recording, the Chandler name. Like the first time I remember hearing Chandler was Bob Chandler, and he had this white hoopty like factory stock with black spray painted numbers. When was it like? Because you grew up in racing, and this was something like from the instant you knew this is what you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, and like my dad, it's a hobby. He had a factory stock, and his first sprint car, actually, he just pulled the motor out of the factory stock and put it in the sprint car, and went and raced. And, he was the guy that would load everything up and then, well, heck, if I don't race this weekend, I'll just go to the lake, and then I won't have to work on it next week, and then not race. And he had other things going. And, once I not necessarily got into, like I said, it was the whole time. Like, my whole life, that's really all I wanted to do. And once it started, the seriousness level got really, really, really elevated compared to, how he did it. And that's why I keep telling him. I was like, dude, you probably didn't win a lot because you put the time in, because he's always telling how bad he sucked. And I'm like, no, man, I don't think you sucked because
you didn't race. Yeah. That's why you sucked. So were you like extremely hands-on from the young age, or was it something where you kind of let things happen, and at an older age you started getting more adaptive to what was going on in the car, like setups and just the mechanical workings of the car?
Definitely when I was older, right? So like junior sprint, halfway through restrictor, of course. Now, micro racing's so different now. It's back then they didn't necessarily just shell you out as fast as you could and run through the classes.
Right.
I remember restrictor from the time I was 9 to 12, which now in micro racing that's an eternity. You
Right,
already got to be
yeah.
doing something else. But I really didn't handle anything. And then by the time I was 13, 14, I started not necessarily taking interest, but hey, if we're going to keep doing this, this is going to be part of your responsibility. These things need to be done. And, I found out that I enjoyed that side of it just as much as I did driving. And, it was awesome. It was a good foundation to build on. And like I said, you get smarter and smarter and smarter. And like I look back on times even when I was, 15, 16 and my car not driving right. And now, being older, it's like, oh, man, I know exactly what was wrong. And back then I didn't know, it's like, oh, heck, how many races that caused me with that being wrong?
Right.
But, yeah.
You had the opportunity to do some pretty cool things, right?
Yeah.
You raced.
No doubt.
Didn't you do some stuff down at Texas Motor Speedway? Some asphalt stuff.
Yeah, the Bandolero deal.
That's it.
Yeah.
Talk to me. How did that all come about? And like, was that something that you were interested in, or has it always been dirt?
Really, anything on 4 wheels. I could hardly ride a bicycle, so really couldn't race anything like that. But no, how that came about was, my dad was working at, where was it? Peterbilt at the time, and he had met Darren Rustin and, Kinsey, Daniel Hemrick, and those people. And it was Kinsey's old Bandolero, and heck, I was, right at the age of 7 and 8 where we could start running. And, well, heck, you ain't got to convince me to get in a car and go to the races. So went down there, and the pavement deal was, especially for me at that age, huge learning curve, right? So, like, we would even run the road course stuff, and, Dad would get mad because I was spending more time in the grass than I was on the track, and he's like, hey, we're not here to race dirt. Like, you need to stay on the pavement. But, once you get a hold of it, I adapted to it and got pretty good at it. It was a lot of fun.
Now, I may be wrong on this, but didn't you spend some time doing crew work too? You spent like a Indiana Midget Week with a team?
Yes. I went with, I was with Keith for, 2018 Midget Week. Then I went to Pennsylvania with him, and then we went to the BC 39. I wanted to be there for the first race in Indianapolis, so I'm glad I did. It was really special.
Do you feel like that time with KKM kind of helped you refocus or learn even more the side of like what you're doing now? Like if you look back, rewind, and then see where you're at now, do you feel like that set you up for what you're doing now, or is it something that you've always been passionate about as far as knowing the mechanics, knowing the setup, knowing what every little piece does?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it, completely set me up, but it definitely, taught you things that, you probably ought to be paying attention to. So, like I said, it was a good use of my time, and a lot of irony because, I had raced midgets, 2-3 years, and then wasn't racing there for a little bit, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can make these things go so much better with these knowledge I have, and I never really got to capitalize on it, but there was a clear difference of, like, when I came back from Keith and was racing, like, I drove Blaine Long's car, the Thor car, and, oh my God, the thing, it drove great. I was like, oh, man, if I'd have done this the whole time, and like I said, it was kind of ironic, Keith, I never really looked up to any drivers at the racetrack. Those guys were always my heroes, and I've probably watched every Keith Kunz video on YouTube, documentary, whatever, Follow the Corn, like Jack Slash with Kyle winning at Belleville's a great one. And like I said, I really enjoyed getting to go up there and work for those guys, and it was crazy because his shop at the time, now he's got that the big, I'm sure you've seen the USAC video of it, but at the time, it was still when they shared the office space, and it was the shop they'd always been in. But dude, their trophy room, it nearly brought me to tears. Like, I was so close to crying in there because it hit me like, oh my God, like, see all the stuff that these guys have done. Like,
right,
crazy,
it tells a story. It kind of makes everything come back in full circle.
Yeah, and I was like, man, I don't know. I feel like I appreciated it more than maybe anyone else that had seen it. I was just like, dude, this is so cool. I'm so fortunate to get to do this.
That's pretty cool. We come now, you talk about midget racing back then versus midget racing now. You've won some races. You've done you've done some pretty spectacular things. You won a championship, right? So what do you think? Again, you talked about the micro things. You ran restrictors from 9 to 12. Now, if you run from 9 to 12, you might as well just hang it up after that because people are going so fast.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the atmosphere and just the life of a micro racer? People can't just have fun anymore. Does it feel like they're pressuring too much on what they're doing?
Not necessarily, but I feel like it's definitely used as development of people. Okay, well, the goal is to race, whatever. What about sprint cars, ACS, whatever it might be? And, it's kind of the same thing that Ryan did as far as, just drill out as many races as you can, and then when it's time to move on, you move on. And, back, like when I ran micros, you were racing Andrews, Flood, Cochran, Newell, Sylvester, me, and, those guys' time, they're, 25-year-old men.
Yeah.
And, heck, I probably ran second to Frank and Chris, I would say no less than 100 times.
Right.
Those guys are grown.
Yeah.
And, now I don't know enough about it. Carroll's an older guy and has some success. And, same with Jeffrey at the shootout. But I definitely feel like there are more, like I said, the development, people move up earlier now. It's not weird to see a 12-year-old kid in an outlaw class. And when I was doing it, it was a complete oddity. Oh, my God, this kid's 12 running outlaw. It's like, I guess I was kind of the first guy to do it.
Yeah.
Might be responsible for some of that, but it's certainly different.
The Grady Chandler rule is in full effect. A lot of people are calling it the Ryan Timms rule now that, you make mention of Ryan. But where do you think, like, some of the midget racing is going? Because you watch and you make comments on it, and I feel like it's a very touchy subject with certain people. But just the state of midget racing, what do you feel is to blame for the way it's going? Do you feel like it's a responsibility of some of these series need to step up and say, hey, make the call? Is it team owners? Is it drivers need to, come in between and amongst themselves kind of set the standard? Because back in the day, whenever you were racing micros here against Andrews and Flood and Sawyer, and you had Newell and Cochran and all those guys, they kind of set the tone, right? Like they were the gatekeepers of the class.
Yeah, and I mean you ain't got to drive to Indiana to get your butt whipped. You can come right here and race those guys and take a whipping. And midget racing now, I feel like with anything really, when there's bad leadership, nothing succeeds. I mean, you can see kind of what's going on right now in our own world. Bad leadership doesn't help. And like Turnpike Challenge this year, we rolled up with Ryan when we ran Port here, and we showed up for practice, and there were like 15 cars, and I was like, oh my God, where is everybody? Like, what's going on,
Right.
And then, for the race, I think, what was it, 25, 26?
Yeah. And
it kind of floored me, really, because the last Turnpike Challenge I ran, I mean, there were 2 C mains. I mean, it was a 65, 70 car deal, and I think part of that is just, car owners are becoming less and less frequent, right? I mean, it's harder for somebody that can't necessarily bring the funding to get a ride every day, and especially with midgets, like I was telling Blaine Long the other day, the 4-car owner, was like, man, you guys, and I guess you could say the same thing about Steve Carbone. He still puts somebody in his car, still going to race. But, I mean, the owners in the midget deal are kind of over. It's kind of switched over to, I mean, you almost look at it similar to Indy Lights, Formula 3, Formula 2, where you just had these super teams bring,
bring the field.
bring the whole field. And, some of the drivers bring funding to race. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, I mean, there's still good cars, and the quality of cars right now, oh my gosh.
Pretty nuts.
Let me tell you, it's insane. I mean, it's sure there might be less of them, but, I mean, I feel like there's, 26 cars, and heck, 24 of them can win on any given night.
Right.
The cars are capable. So
you speak of that now from a car owner standpoint.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. The car owner standpoint in you, do you feel a little bit different outlook and take on everything that's happening as far as, like, now you're like, maybe we need to stick closer to home and run this show, or, hey, we're still working on this, so instead of going and taking a knife to a gunfight or whatever, however expression you want to use it, you're like, you start to look at things different. Is that the approach that you have now, and how's that going? How is that development of your 00 working?
Yeah, it's been difficult to say the least. Actually, this whole owner deal, I will tell you, is I get triple as nervous when the car's on the racetrack than I did any time I was racing. Okay, you get in the car and you go out there and drive, and no big deal. But when it's somebody else and there's more on the line, it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a heart attack, And now, I've started doing enough times where I'm kind of starting to calm down. It's kind of starting to be a little bit more normal. And it's like Taylor at I-44. Somebody brought some food. I'm like, guys, if I eat, I'll throw up.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way. And that never happened before, I
Yeah.
never felt that emotion.
You always took the chance to eat food so you didn't have to drink bottles of water.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime I get a chance to eat, you got to take it up.
You look at it now, how did the whole being a car owner come about? Because let's face it, you've had a lot of time to think about things, and you've missed racing. I know you've missed racing. What brought it up, and how did it all happen? Like,
man, for the longest time, I'll straight tell you, for a year and a half, I was like, I'm never coming back. Like, I'm done. See ya. I'll just cut that part off and try to move on. But, the more that, not necessarily that it set in, but the more I got to thinking, I was like, man, you've dedicated literally your entire life to this. It's kind of tough to let, 18, 19 years of hard work and dedication just go to waste and do nothing with it. And I was like, man, I've paid my dues. I have the knowledge to do it. Success is right around the corner. I just have to follow through, keep pushing, and I'm glad I did. It's a good decision.
I agree. I was so taken back, right? Because it had been a while since I had seen you, and then at the shootout, we got to talk to you there on Flow, and you said you kind of made hint of something that was forthcoming.
Yeah.
And it got me excited, right? Like it gets you pumped up to see that you're not just letting that knowledge and everything else go to the wayside. How different are things now versus whenever you were running the micros and you were running full time? I mean, every weekend you were in something. You had something going on.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to get to that point with my own program, right? The goal is I keep, having to tell Dad, it's like, man, I would rather make the same amount of money and run 60 races other than 20. The goal is to, race full
race
time.
as much time.
So, it's kind of the same thing. So having some off time, which, I need the off time right now, right? I mean, there's still a lot of things within the program that, need straightened up. And, I can tell you all the investment went to the car. Everything else is terrible. Four-wheeler, we might not have the fanciest stuff, but I wanted to have a product that would, attract people, and regardless of what our rig looks like,
right.
hey, we mean business, and we're here to win.
The piece that rolls out
exactly.
is the piece that you want to be focused on.
Exactly.
Yeah, you have some carts, right?
I got an outlaw cart.
Outlaw cart?
Yeah.
And then you got the midget. Like, is this something where you want to be a team that you can build up and help younger drivers, or are you going to focus on drivers that maybe a little bit older but haven't had the right opportunity? Like, what's your ultimate goal with your group here?
Yeah, a little bit of both. You need to have a healthy breed of young drivers that also can bring income, to a team. And everyone rags the midget deal as far, rental this, rental that, whatever. Okay. It's the same thing as, okay, who owns so-and-so sprint car?
Right.
Okay, so it's nothing different. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But, I also want to have an opportunity for someone to necessarily get a chance, when they're a little older and
right.
be able to put someone in a car, which is coming up, actually, at Meeker. Not going to announce, but, you know who you are. So,
so that's the other thing. Being in this owner role now, you have to look at the big scope of things, right? Because funding and time spent and travel, and you got to be looking at somebody that is the whole package that can bring something back. But how do you balance it all, right?
It's been tough, and for me, gosh, this sounds so silly to say it, but you get used to carrying around somebody else's debit card, and then run up to Smiley's or wherever you're going, and grab the parts. Well, heck, whatever, swipe, grab the stuff, leave, and then once you start using your own money, it's like, oh my God, are you serious? That's cost this much, so.
Right.
So, it's been tough to balance, and even the computer work you have to do of running a team. I'm like, oh my gosh, with the Toyota engine, you have to log your miles each week. I mean, they're very particular about it as far as your miles, your valve spring pressures, your high speeds, low speeds, everything like that. And I'm like, geez, like, man, this is a lot easier when I just had to wash these things and work on them and drive them so much than have to, try to run the whole deal. But I'm having a very good time doing it. I will say it's been a fun learning process.
We talk about where you're at now with everything as far as the team goes. I just saw an update a couple of days ago that you're not done fighting, like, to get better, right? Like, you're still
no,
just going through all the physical therapy and different things like that, right?
Yeah, and right.
And that's once. People may not realize that, right? Like,
yeah,
because they don't see it all the time. But whenever we do see it, it makes us, like, appreciate it, right? Like, you're consistently working not only on a team but yourself still.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, honestly, dude, the next 5 years of my life are going to be really, really crazy. I think this deal is going to be much bigger than if I wouldn't have been hurt, of what's going to happen. So I'm really looking forward to that. But, there is a glass ceiling right now with how good you're going to get, so to say. Mm-hmm. But there are some major, major, major things coming up the pipeline here in the next few years that I know I'll be able to benefit from and, hopefully be a part of it.
That's amazing. Grady, you're young, but you're freaking wise beyond your years. Like,
I feel like I'm 35. Like, mentally, I'm like, dude,
you have
I should be 30.
And like I was telling you before we started recording, like, what I love about everything that I've started to see more and more now is you're still freaking Grady Chandler. You're still that quirky, like, you still have those one-liners, those zingers, those tweets every now and then just make me go, gosh, dog, it's good to see that. Like,
yeah,
you haven't changed. But what words of advice or, like, a piece of wisdom could you bestow on, if not a young driver, maybe a new dad bringing a kid into race, or a racer that's been racing a long time that just hasn't found that success that they drive for?
Yeah, I mean, it's all about dedication, right? And I think there's a lot of negative mentality of, if you don't come from a privileged background, you'll never make it, whatever. Yeah, if you use that as your excuse, you're not trying hard enough. I mean, straight up, if you use I don't have no money, like, okay, dude, I'm not believing you.
Yeah.
Like, regardless if you have money or not, are you doing everything you can in your power to put yourself in the position to get the opportunities?
Right.
And I don't like people that use an excuse, so to say. And there's plenty of ways to make it in racing, and I feel like I was a guy that was, well on my way to the success without necessarily the backing. As far as the young dads coming in, I feel like a lot of people look at my situation and really are all, it's a negative thing in racing. No one wants to see someone get hurt. Right? Like, it happens. We all know it happens, but nobody wants to see it. And, I was in the hospital for, what was it, 240 days, I think. And in that time, one, I never met another race car driver, right? So a lot of other ways you can get hurt. I've met similar situations, or people in similar situations to me that, little rehab talking to everybody. Oh, what are you in for? It's like being in prison or something. And say it. I met this girl and she's like, oh, dude, I slipped on a dog toy and fell down the stairs. And I'm like, oh my God. This one guy, he's at I hope they don't mind me sharing their story. I wouldn't think they do. But this one guy was at like a frat party or something for his college.
Right.
And his buddy came out and, just playing around, like, kicked his knees out from under him. He fell down and broke his neck. And, now he's paralyzed from the neck down. And it's like, okay, maybe racing isn't that dangerous. Like, you can get hurt doing literally anything. And the craziest one that I had heard of was a guy was working from home at COVID, and his ink pen quit working. So he pushed his office chair back, and when he did, he fell over and hit his head on the wall. And it completely, he's like a C2 injury. So, he can't breathe on his own from falling over in an office chair. So, anything can happen to you at any given time. I feel like that's what this has kind of taught me. It's not necessarily just racing. So, don't be afraid to, get your kid in it or whatever. I feel like, man, there's a lot of other ways you get hurt. And statistically, you're still more likely to get hurt on the way to the races than you are at the races.
Yeah.
Not that it can't happen, but like I said, oh, snap, I stepped on a dog toy and now, same boat. So.
Then talk about so there is that risk, right? But the risk versus the reward, not only in winning a race or a championship or, being a part of Excalibur team or whatever, but just the bonus family that you receive. Like, the racing community is by far, I mean, is the dog toy community out there like, hey, if you slip on your dog toy, we're here for you?
No, and I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I mean, the racing community literally saved my life. There's no way. I mean, for me to be able to come back, my family not completely lose everything, and me still be able to come out and do what I love, you know, as far as bad situations go, I feel like I've literally been in the best situation possible for a bad situation, if that makes any sense. And I'm not gonna lie, it's been really, really overwhelming at times, especially like now, because heck, when you're that sick, so is your brain, right? So like, I didn't really even interact for about a year and a half, and like my Facebook memories keep popping up. I'm just like, man, this was a way bigger deal than I gave it credit for. You know, like I didn't experience it at the time when it was going on, and I don't know. It's so surreal to have, you know, that many people care about your well-being, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
So, race fans, right there, I mean, that makes me speechless knowing. I mean, you can hear it, right? Like, you are seriously genuine about that. And race fans, from me, from Grady, from the Chandler 3, thank you all for the support. Keep it up. Like, keep your thoughts and prayers with this guy. Thanks for watching Haas Talks. This has been Grady Chandler.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Turn me up, make it sound really good.
Turn it up, make it sound really good. Really good, really good. Make it sound really good. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Haas Talks. Now, I know what you're thinking. Haas, where you been? It's been like 3 weeks since you had a new show come out. Well, guys, I got new chompers. I got new teeth. I got a new grill. Smile for me, Dad. Let me see your grill. My what? So, cheese. Man, this feels good. So, a few weeks back, had surgery, had teeth taken out, man. Had new implants put in. The whole nine, and just let me say, like, I've been trying to get over, like, my new speech impediment. Everyone says they can't hear it, but I hear it, like, daily. Like, I hear it right now inside the headphones. But at any rate, I'm back. I'm ready to bring you a new episode. And I've been working on this one for quite some time. Like, I've deep down inside wanted to have this guy on the show for such a long time. And it looks like it's finally going to happen. So right after this break, right here in the Haas Talks studio, Grady Chandler will be on Haas Talks right after this.